It's part 4 of the Museum campaign Abridged, where last time I became King of the Galaxy to try and get the other people in the galaxy to do some stuff. I started integrating them, but I ran out of time and patience, so it's very much left undone sort of task. And then the crisis happened and actually started to take over some of the galaxy. A more crisis-y crisis, which actually does prove to be difficult for us to fight. We already pretty much lost a fleet trying to take down one of theirs. And here's my next play against them. We have to see, well, what can we do if we attack them with everything we have? We've got more than our maximum naval capacity, and here it is. Here is our stuff all collected together for an advance into the Scourge's space. First, we have to get through this million strength fleet. My fleet strength combined here should be well over 1 million. And indeed, we do quickly win this battle, albeit with some casualties. So that is promising. This means in principle, we can go around and start thinning the enemy out. They do respawn, as I mentioned in the last episode. While I was playing right now, I didn't know they respawn. I was so hopeful, thinking, oh, we can just go and kill them all then. But no, you have to kill them fast enough. And the main issue behind this is that we're not killing them for free. So each time we kill them, we get a bit weaker, we kill them slower the next time, and it'll gradually get to the point when we can't kill them, and every 2 in-game years, they respawn. All of their stuff can respawn. And for reference, it takes one shipyard about 2 years to make maybe 3 battleships, and you'll need about 20 battleships per fleet, plus 20 cruisers as well, which are made in half the time. Basically, they can come back faster than we can come back. So in a sheer spam war, where we're just constantly making things and throwing them at each other, we need to be trading extremely efficiently with them to make progress. As you can see, we've already taken down 2 fleets, so it's going well so far. Now then, it's time for a small montage of me just going around and shooting up some fleets. There was a big one that we took down. They've got some queens out there. And you actually can capture the queens, as we'll later discover. Not sure how, maybe it's just like a drop from the fleet, you get a captured queen sometimes. I'll probably talk about that a lot more in the future, because it very much later became a useful thing to have done for a weird reason. So we go around, vaguely moving from the bottom right of the map towards the top right, taking out fleets as we come across them. And it all goes very well. We have taken casualties on the way, our fleets are beginning to weaken. But I still felt at this point, well, they're strong enough, we'll keep on ploughing forwards. However, we got to this point when I jumped into a system and about half a second before arriving realised it wasn't 1 enemy fleet here, but 4. On the galaxy view it looks the same unless you go and look at the tooltips. So we jump on top of 4 enemy fleets, and as you can see, we lasted 5 seconds. Everything in our navy dies. We've got the odd scraps here and there and some integrated fleets out in the distance that probably suck, just wasting my naval capacity. But that's most of our good stuff gone. Well, we'll just have to make another one. And it was a bit of a wake-up call. It's like, well, we can't kill them that easily, and it's going to take us a very long time in-game to remake that fleet, because these ships do build quite slowly, as I mentioned. To help out, we're going to kind of cheat, or cheat according to my challenge run rules. I didn't really want to use all of the shipyards we've got through integration, because I was supposed to disband them according to my own low micro challenge, but I'm just going to use a few of them up here at the top of the map. I'm going to have a second front, so that I can have some more fleets being produced essentially in the path of where the enemy are going, so we can use them for stuff. I happened to find a good spot to set up over here where there was one system they would have to move through to get to a whole bunch of other ones that had a few shipyards in them. So we've created a new front line at that place beginning with B down here. We're making some more fleets, just trying to get towards something over like 500,000 fleet power, because we know a fleet that strong can take down one of the enemy brood horde things. I can't remember what they're called. They're called like the Vanguard hordes and the brood hordes, something like that. Not hordes, fleets. Enemies. Here's me taking down one of the Vanguard ones, the weaker type. That's easy enough, and I'm going to be super cautious. We go in, kill some of them, and immediately go back to repair our armor and get our health back. because that was something I wasn't doing with my little crusade earlier, and that was probably enhancing the number of casualties we took as we went on. So we're being more careful this time, plus I'm going to bother researching the drops. I don't think this makes any difference in retrospect, but you can get some Pretheran technology by researching their debris. You get like special missiles, but the game didn't give the missiles to my ships afterwards, which means you have something that's better in the game's logic. So I think the dark matter tier of tech might be technically above or something. Who knows, I didn't look into it in detail. Eventually we have rebuilt our fleets and it's time for action once again. I've got our northern fleet just trying to hold the enemy off, going out and getting the odd kill and then going back home for the most part, while my main fleet from the Galactic Core is out again in the middle of the Scourge, hunting down the Scourge blobs. Now I thought this was a good thing for me to be doing, because this is still before I found out that the Scourge fleets just respawn, but we'll be getting to that point very soon. So for now, I'm going around thinking, haha, I'll take out these fleets now. That's going to save me a lot of trouble later. Even if my fleets are getting taken down in the process, we can win a war of attrition because I can keep rebuilding my fleets, aka I can respawn but they can't. That's what I'm thinking. Here's a nice situation where we jumped right on top of a 1,000,000 strong enemy fleet and immediately take it out. That's the best way to take a fight, I think, because if all your fleets are on top of each other after jumping, they will fight together, whereas when they move they tend to spread out ever so slightly, and that can make a big difference, especially when the fights only last like 2 seconds. And here's an example of this. If you travel a couple of systems and then engage, you get something like this where your fleets are coming in one behind the other, and the fleet at the front gets hit by a load of stuff. Because you defeated the enemy like half a second slower, you do lose a whole bunch of extra ships. So it's annoying that you can't like make a fleet group and just tell the blob of ships to move together. That's something I eventually found a potential workaround for, actually, as we'll get to. Now the fighting continues as I just go after enemy blob after blob. This was about the end of my fleet's usefulness. We've been worn down so much I thought, well, let's just leave after this. But from the top of the screen, another enemy blob actually came into the system while I was fighting, and we get forced into a combat that does not go very well for us, unfortunately, and we lose another main blob of our ships. Takes a while to get them back. The cost isn't really an issue. It's just the fact that I have to sit here constantly clicking to build them. You can't say build 20 battleships, which is about the amount you need to start a basic fleet. You have to click battleship 20 times and remember to do it and stuff. Inconvenient. So we've lost another fleet, and this was when I noticed that more fleets are there than there were a bit ago. So I worked out that the enemy are respawning. I rage quit because I was like, man, this will never end. I don't want to fight an infinitely respawning enemy. But then I came back like a week later, which is where we are now, and I thought, let's get serious. Let's actually do this. First, we need to bother pulling in all of the population we have out there to save them from the Scourge. That's going to take a while as we gradually do the move people decision on every planet, and we do have a fair few at the moment. Once all that is done, it does cause a few issues actually, because having a massive unemployed population on the Birch world seems to reduce the game's frame rate. I'm guessing it's constantly processing something, like trying to look for a job for them or change their population class or something. So we've got like 1,000 unemployed people, we've got a negative amount of jobs because the people who are dying are somehow taking up jobs. Confusing. And yeah, it eventually did recover from this. It just felt like it was going to crash for a while. I also built some new districts to give all of those pops jobs. And after that I thought, let's go back to integrating. I had stopped bothering to integrate other factions because I wasn't planning on actually bringing them in. But now we're back on the original challenge run, essentially. We're doing the thing I wanted to do before I discovered it was too annoying, but my week off had built me up some patience. So now it's like I will try and bring them in, and the Seban Empire there is an easy one because they don't have many pops. The other thing I decided to do is try and actually fight using the few weapons we have available. I've disabled most of the Gigastructural Engineering mod's most powerful things, but what we can do is build a whole bunch of orbital bastions, because orbital bastions slightly increase your naval capacity. It costs influence to build them, so I'm just going to build as many as I can, and also you have to build them over a planet for some reason, so we only have a few planets in our central area to use. But if I make a whole bunch of those, I can make a bigger fleet. And that does make a difference, because if you can kill the enemy slightly faster with your greater offensive potential, you might be able to get to the point when you don't lose ships in engagements, and then you've won the war for all intents and purposes. So that's the plan anyway. I also decided to try something new when it comes to our fleets. Normally I've just been building roughly the same amount of battleships and cruisers and throwing them together into fleets with no particular care for what's a good combination of these two kinds of ships. However, someone in the comments claimed that corvettes are actually the best kind of ship. You can see on the tooltip they have evasion 100%. Well, that sounds like a good amount of evasion for not taking damage. So the idea is they dodge attacks, so they actually get a lot more value than you think they would given their inferior stats, presuming they have stats. I haven't even looked into that. So basically, I'm going to make an enormous horde of corvettes and put them to the test with our metal swarm against the biological swarm we're fighting. While we build those corvettes, we need to defend our northern area, the one bit of the map I'm bothering to defend, using some of our regular ships. What I'm essentially doing is sorting out of the base location I'd chosen to attack the enemy as they went past us. The way the enemy's strategy seemed to go was that they kept moving up to where my position was and then going to the west into this ancient empire. So I started occasionally jumping out and fighting their fleets as they went past. We certainly didn't stop all of them, and the ancient empire started getting taken down, but we don't really care about that. Here was an awkward situation where another fleet is coming in just after the one I went after, so we're a bit surrounded now actually. Seeing that, I decided to fight my way back so that we could use all of our strength to clear our way back to our repair points, and here we are taking down that one fleet. Once you've had a couple of fights, you have to go back to the shipyards to get some more armor and stuff, otherwise we'll see more and more casualties. Plus in this case on the way back, we can take out an enemy transport fleet coming to colonize one of the ancient empire's planets, no doubt. Here is another such fight, one that begins with a bit of strategic micro there, trying to get my initial fleet to wait a few seconds before fighting so the secondary fleet could show up. Again, just a problem of not being able to combine enough ships to have them move together, or there not being something that I've found in the game that allows you to force them to move together. We're starting to run out of time and territory though, because more enemy fleets are attacking the eastern portion of this northern block, and they will have a route through to the place where I'm building all of the ships around here. So eventually we're going to run out of time here. Plus they could just gather together some fleets and ram through my strong point. It seems they were distracted by that ancient empire. But eventually I kind of force myself into a weak situation, and it begins right here as I move out as usual to jump into the system adjoining my strong point to take out an enemy fleet. That's going okay, and some news is getting in my way, but it's another case where towards the end of the fight another enemy fleet joins in coming from another direction. So now our guys who are already damaged will get more damaged and more killed. There's another Admiralty headquarters. We are boosting up that fleet capacity as fast as possible. So yes, this second fight is more iffy, and I've got my hand over the retreat button ready to go, but it looked like we would just about win this fight and take down both of these Scourge fleets, and then we'd have to go back and build a new fleet. Well, actually it's a bit worse than that, because another enemy fleet shows up afterwards to join the fight. I'm able to retreat with one of my two fleets. The other one gets its retreat timer reset. You have to be in battle a certain amount of time before you can fight, but that second fleet technically left a battle and rejoined, which resets the timer, so they were completely wiped out, and the fleet that retreated was basically wiped out as well, meaning the strong point I was using to make those powerful ships and just use as a base to be close to the front lines is now going to go downtown. You can see I'd started building a swarm of corvettes here, but it gets taken out as the enemy fleet comes in and annihilates us. I'd built a bunch of defense platforms there as well, but they're all but useless against a 10 times multiplied crisis because your defense platforms have limited strength. They're more suited for regular gameplay strength levels. So now we're down to my back corner place. I had this shipyard at the back at the very edge of the map where I'm still spamming corvettes, and we'll get to use them soon enough. Here I was considering a fight near the galaxy core in the west where the enemy are starting to show up, but ended up not going for it. Here though is the first engagement with my stack of corvettes. I wanted to push back and try to retake the location we just lost and essentially experiment with this corvette stack. While they have that 100% evasion stat, it doesn't make them actually invincible, which is what I was secretly hoping. I'm guessing it just means that any non-guided attack has a chance to miss, and maybe that chance is 100%, but maybe we're being hit by guided attacks. Not really sure, obviously, what's actually going on in this flashy light ball, but it seems we're losing some ships and we're gradually killing them as well. The corvettes seem to be hard to kill, but their weapons damage is very low, so it takes them a long time to do anything. So I just sat here watching, and I eventually decided it's probably not going to go very well in the end, and retreated. But I didn't completely give up on corvettes. I liked that they're quite fast to build. You can make 10 corvettes for every battleship. So I thought, let's just spam even more. Maybe if we had like double the amount, so that we were reducing the enemy's health a little bit, we might be able to get somewhere with our own swarm tactics. We've also got a couple of these equatorial shipyards coming online in the galaxy core. That adds 8 simultaneous building slots to your shipyards in the area, so we can use that to spam out more things in the core, and it is building capacity holding us back right now rather than resources for sure. My integration campaign is still coming along nicely. I've just brought in the empire that was over here on the left, which is causing all sorts of lag again as their population tries to work out what on earth's going on with this whole museum they've been teleported into. I'm also going to try and salvage that faction's fleet by getting it back before access to the core is cut off, and then upgrading them with all of the dark matter stuff. Might be easier than building a new fleet, but it does actually take ages and loads of resources to upgrade stuff as well, so I'm not quite sure about that. As for what I've been doing here in the core this whole time, I've just been making loads of ships. The whole game plan has been distract the enemy with my northern campaign thing that we've been talking about, while I just spam ships and try to get up to naval capacity while also constantly increasing my naval capacity in the core. So we have quite a lot of stuff there, and plenty more still on the way as well. The Scourge have started to take over western parts of the galaxy. They've come through a wormhole over there, so need to keep an eye on them. Now time for the big integration. These guys have like 2,000 plus pops, so it's going to take forever to integrate them, and we totally don't need them, but I just started doing it anyway. But here's the cheeky thing. I clearly wasn't paying enough attention because those Scourge hordes actually came in and attacked the galaxy core. So for the first time, an enemy force has actually made it here to my defences. We've got 2 fleets of corvettes defending this location, plus a high-level space station. So it's time to see if 2 swarms of corvettes will be more impressive than just the one. They are going to be buffed by the space station. I can't remember what exactly. I think they get plus 10% damage or something because of parts of the station. And perhaps helping in a more important fashion is the fact that I just so happened to be moving a real fleet to this location as the enemy attacked, and they arrived just in time to help. We lost 70 corvettes, which is quite a lot. We had something like 500, so losing 70 of them in battle isn't really acceptable, unfortunately. It takes a pretty long time to make 70 corvettes. That's quite a few. That said, I did go on to fight another battle with this stack, with the real fleet now included, because I was thinking, well, this means that the corvettes can go ahead and just soak up damage. We'll take most of our losses on the corvettes, while we have all the battleships and cruisers behind them doing some actual damage, and I thought together this combination might be effective. But I'm not sure it's better than just having 3 fleets worth of battleships and cruisers, really. even though the casualties hurt more because they're harder to replace, you do so much more damage when you're attacking and the battles are so much shorter that maybe it's better overall. So there's another 50 or so corvettes lost, and after that I thought, well, this fleet might as well go back to the core. For now, because we do have more ships on the way, there's no reason to really go out and crusade against the enemy until we have as many ships in a big blob as we can reasonably gather together, because the more ships we have, the fewer casualties we'll take, and that means the crusade can go on for longer, and that's the key. We need to survive long enough to kill the enemy faster than they're respawning, with the ultimate goal, I suppose, of having fleets that can take the enemy down, just be vaguely where they're respawning. Then we'll be able to take out their planets, which I think is the thing you have to do to stop them from respawning and actually end the crisis. Not quite sure. But anyway, we're getting closer and closer to being ready for that, so in the next part, our crusade against the Prethran Scourge shall begin, with many a corvette sent out, perhaps as a sacrifice, perhaps as the best ship of all time. Still not convinced of that. Well, more tests to come.